Ready? All right. Jesus heals a man with leprosy. When Jesus came down from the mountainside after the Sermon on the Mount, large crowds followed him. A man with leprosy came and knelt before him and said, Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. I am willing, he said, be clean. Immediately he was cleansed of his leprosy. Then Jesus said to him, see that you don't tell anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest and offer the gift Moses commanded as a testimony to them. See that you don't tell anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest and offer the gift Moses commanded as a testimony to them. When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, asking for help. Lord, he said, my servant lies at home, paralyzed, suffering terribly. Jesus said to him, shall I come and heal him? The centurion replied, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed, and said to those following him, truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west, and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then Jesus said to the centurion, go, let it be done just as you believed it would. And his servant was healed at that moment. Go, let it be done just as you believed it would. You know what I'm saying? And he calls his faith great. He calls the centurion's faith great. Because he believes Jesus doesn't even have to come to my house. Just say the word and it'll be done. So I think this will point to your faith will work as far as your faith works. I was saying this is going to show that your faith can work how your faith works. A lot of these people, like the man right before leprosy, Jesus reached out and touched the man and said, I am willing. He said, be clean. But with the centurion said, no. Jesus offered to come to his house. Shall I come and heal him? And the centurion was like, nah, I don't even deserve you under my roof. Just say the word. Because if I can do it, you can do it. I have people who serve me and I tell them to go and they go. I tell him to come and he comes. I tell him to do this and he does it. So if I can do it, I know you can do it. That's big. That's huge faith. That's huge faith. Jesus heals many. When Jesus came into Peter's house, he saw Peter's mother-in-law lying in bed with a fever. He touched her hand and the fever left her, and she got up and began to wait on him. When evening came, many who were demon-possessed were brought to him, and he drove out the spirits with a word and healed all the sick. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. He took up our infirmities and bore our diseases. The cost of following Jesus. When Jesus saw the crowds around him, he gave orders to cross to the other side of the lake. Then a teacher of the law came to him and said, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. Jesus replied, Foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Another disciple said to him, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. But Jesus told him, Follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. Jesus calms the storm. Then he got into the boat and his disciples followed him. Suddenly a furious storm came up on the lake so that the waves swept over the boat, but Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him up saying, Lord, save us. We're going to drown. He replied, You of little faith, why are you so afraid? Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. The men were amazed and asked, What kind of man is this? Even the winds and waves obey him. So there's something about Jesus. The disciples around him are asking, What kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him. So this is kind of pointing to maybe they don't really understand who he is, like what they're around yet. Because they're asking, What kind of man is this? Preaching on the Sermon on the Mount, he's healing all these people. He's doing all these crazy things with sicknesses. Then he rebukes the wind and the waves. He's asleep while all this crazy stuff is going on around the boat. What kind of man is this? Jesus restores 2 demon-possessed men. When he arrived at the other side in the region of Gadarenes, 2 demon-possessed men coming from the tombs met him. They were so violent that no one could pass that way. "What do you want with us, Son of God?" they shouted. This is what they asked him. The demon-possessed men are asking him, "What do you want with this Son of God?" they shouted. "Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time?" Some distance from them, a large herd of pigs was feeding. The demon begged Jesus, "If you drive us out, send us into the herd of pigs." He said to them, "Go." So they came out and went into the pigs, and the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and died in the water. Those tending the pigs ran off, went into the town, and reported all this, including what happened to the demon-possessed men. Then the whole town went out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they pleaded with him to leave their region. They're probably afraid of this dude. Why would they plead with him to leave? That's what I think. I think they was kind of afraid of him. And I think it's interesting how the demons know who he is. These demons know who he is. And have you come here to torture us before the appointed time? You know what I'm saying? Which is interesting because even demons have knowledge of God. So there is a point of deciding what you want involved. You know, you can find God and decide not. You can decide that you don't want that. You can choose that. Jesus forgives and heals a paralyzed man. Jesus stepped into a boat, crossed over, and came to his hometown. Some men brought him a paralyzed man lying on a mat. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the man, "Take heart, son, your sins are forgiven." At this, some of the teachers of the law said to themselves, "This fellow is blaspheming." Knowing their thoughts, Jesus said, "Why do you entertain evil thoughts in your hearts? Which is easier, to say your sins are forgiven, or to say, get up and walk? But I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." So he said to the paralyzed man, "Get up, take your mat, and go home." Then the man got up and went home. When the crowd saw this, they were filled with awe, and they praised God who had given such authority to man. So this is where things start to take a little turn. He's healing people, you know what I mean? He's healed people. He's casted out demons, right? But to this person, he says, "Take heart, son, your sins are forgiven." Right? And then I think it's interesting how it says some men brought to him a paralyzed man lying on a mat. So these men bring to Jesus a paralyzed man lying on a mat. And when Jesus sees this, he sees their faith. He's looking at these people come and saying like, "Oh, you have to have faith to be doing this." I feel like a faith is a commitment in your heart. And that's what God knows. He knows the commitment you're making in your heart. I think that's what faith looks like. Yes. So you have to have made a commitment in your heart to take this man over there and really believe that this is going to work for this to even happen. That's what faith looks like. And then he says, "Which is easier to say, your sins are forgiven, or to say, get up and walk? But I want you to know that the Son of Man has the authority on earth to forgive sins." As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Mathew sitting at the tax collector's booth. "Follow me," he told him. And Mathew got up and followed him. While Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." Wow. Jesus questioned about fasting. Then John's disciples came and asked him, "How is it that we and the Pharisees fast often, but your disciples do not fast?" Jesus answered, "How can the guest of the bridegroom mourn while he is with them? How can the guest of the bridegroom mourn while he is with them? The time will come when the bridegroom will be taken from them. Then they will fast. No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, for the patch will pull away from the garment, making the tear worse. Neither do people pour new wine into old wineskins. If they do, The skins will burst, the wine will run out, and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins, and both are preserved. Jesus raises a dead girl and heals a sick woman. While he was saying this, a synagogue leader came and knelt before him and said, "My daughter has just died, but come and put your hands on her, and she will live." Jesus got up and went with him, and so did his disciples. Just then, a woman who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak. She said to herself, "If I only touch his cloak, I will be healed." Jesus turned and saw her. "Take heart, daughter," he said. "Your faith has healed you." And the woman was healed at that moment. When Jesus entered the synagogue leader's house and saw the noisy crowd and people playing pipes, he said, "Go away. The girl is not dead, but asleep." But they laughed at him. After the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took the girl by the hand, and she got up. News of this spread through all the region. Jesus heals the blind and the mute. As Jesus went on from there, 2 blind men followed him, calling out, "Have mercy on us, Son of David." When he had gone indoors, the blind men came to him, and he asked them, "Do you believe that I am able to do this?" "Yes, Lord," they replied. Then he touched their eyes and said, "According to your faith, let it be done to you." This is what he's saying to these people. According to your faith, let it be done to you. And I don't know if people realize or if people think about if they have any faith. You know, if they have any faith or any hope. Do you really have that? And then it's crazy to think about how you can grow your faith. Your faith is something that can be grown. Your belief is something that can be grown. And the only way you can grow it is by putting your faith in God. You have to not give God an opportunity, but you have to give your faith to God and see what he does with it. And then when you see him doing the things in your life, it just gives you more faith. Like once you start to recognize that God is doing things in your life, it makes it easier to have faith in him. But all it starts with putting your faith in him, to know that you can put your faith in him. You know what I'm saying? To know that you can do that. You have to first put it there. And it feels like a leap. It feels like a leap of faith. Like, God, I'm putting this in you. I'm putting all of it on you. You know what I'm saying? What your faith can do for you is crazy. But what kind of faith you have determine what is possible in your life. What do you have? How much faith do you have? That determines what is possible. This lady thought that she had to go and touch his cloak. One man thought that you just had to say the word. Some people feel like God need to lay hands on them.
And whatever you think, if you really have faith in it, it will be done.
And Jesus' reply to these people is, according to your faith, it will be done to you. Then he touched their eyes and said, according to your faith, let it be done to you. And their sight was restored. Jesus warned them sternly, see that no one knows about this. But they went out and spread the news about him all over that region. While they were going out, a man who was demon-possessed and could not talk was brought to Jesus. And when the demon was driven out, the man who had been mute spoke. The crowd was amazed and said, nothing like this has ever been seen in Israel. But the Pharisee said, it is by the prince of demons that he drives out demons. Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them, because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field. So when God seen these people, he had compassion on them. When Jesus seen these people, God in the flesh, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Dang. Jesus sends out the 12. Jesus calls his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out impure spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. Wow. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, who is called Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions: do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. As you go, proclaim this message: the kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. Do not get any gold or silver or copper to take with you in your belts. No bag for the journey, or extra shirt or sandals or a staff, for the worker is worth his keep. Whatever town or village you enter, search there for some worthy person and stay at their house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. Truly I tell you, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. I am sending you out like sheep amongst wolves. Therefore, be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. Be on your guard. You will be handed over to the local council and be flogged in the synagogues. On my account, you will be brought before governors and kings as witnesses to them and to the Gentiles. But when they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it. At that time, you will be given what to say, for it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, flee to another. Truly I tell you, you will not finish going through the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. The student is not above the teacher, nor a servant above his master. It is enough for students to be like their teachers, and servants like their masters. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebul, how much more the members of his household? I love that. The student is not above the teacher, nor a servant above his master. So do not be afraid of them, for there is nothing concealed that will be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Whoever acknowledges me before others, I will acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before others, I will disown before my Father in heaven. Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. Anyone who welcomes you welcomes me, and anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet as a prophet will receive a prophet's reward, and whoever welcomes a righteous person as a righteous person will receive a righteous person's reward. And if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones who is my disciple, truly I tell you, that person will certainly not lose their reward. I think it's important to keep the context of what's being said. Like we can draw from this. But God is talking to the 12 disciples that he is sending out right now. That's who he is talking to. And for context, that's who he's talking to. You know, this stuff can apply to us. But for context, he is talking to the 12 disciples he is sending out right in this moment. As Jesus had finished instructing his 12 disciples, he went on from there to teach and preach in the towns of Galilee. When John, who is in prison, heard about the deeds of the Messiah, he sent his disciples to ask him, "Are you the one who is to come, or should we expect someone else?" Jesus replied, "Go back and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is proclaimed to the poor. Blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me." As John's disciples were leaving, Jesus began to speak to the crowd about John. "What did you go out into the wilderness to see? A reed swayed by the wind? If not, what did you go out to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? No, those who wear fine clothes are in king's palaces. Then what did you go out to see? A prophet. Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is the one whom it is written, I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you. Truly I tell you, among those born of women, there has not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist. Yet whoever is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has been subjected to violence, and violent people have been raiding it. For all the prophets in the law prophesied until John, and if you are willing to accept it, he is the Elijah who was to come. Whoever has ears, let them hear. To what I can compare this generation, they are like children sitting in the marketplaces and calling out to others. We played the pipe for you, and you did not dance. We sang a dirge, and you did not mourn. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say, he has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, he is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom is proved right by her deeds. Wow.
What do you think all of that?
I think it's a lot to unpack. I don't really understand what to make of for all the prophets in the law prophesied until John, and if you are willing to accept it, he is the Elijah who was to come. Whoever has ears, let them hear. I know Elijah was a powerful prophet, you know. I think I've only read through his story probably one time, so it's not like firsthand knowledge. A lot of the older stuff I've only read. I haven't read too much, but I don't know what he necessarily means by, and if you are willing to accept it, he is the Elijah who was to come. And then he goes to say, whoever has ears, let them hear. That's interesting. But I think it's crazy how it says John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say he has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say he is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. After that it says, but wisdom is proved right by her deeds. Woe to the unrepentant towns. Then Jesus began to denounce the towns in which most of his miracles had been performed, because they did not repent. Woe to you, Chorazin. Woe to you, Bethsaida. For the miracles that were performed in you had been performed. For if the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I tell you, it will be more bearable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than for you. And you, Capernaum, will you be lifted to the heavens? No, you will go down to Hades. For if the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Sodom, they would have remained to this day. But I tell you that it will be more bearable for Sodom on the day of judgment than for you. Sodom got burned down. Right? So he's saying that these people, if we know how wicked Sodom was, and what he's saying is if they would have seen Jesus, they probably would have repented. But you have seen Jesus, and you not repenting. But in these people's case, they are walking hand in foot with God, watching him do these miracles, following him, hearing what he has to say, but no repentant heart. No changing of their ways. They just see the miracles, and they're just like, wow, this guy's cool. At this time, Jesus said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for this is what you were pleased to do. All things have been committed to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Lord, I want the light burden. I want the easy yoke. I want rest for my soul. It says, Jesus says, for I am gentle and humble in heart. This is the character of God. I am gentle and humble in heart. Because if let's say for y'all, because I believe God is real. For the person who might not believe God is real, if the God of this Bible is real, which I believe he is, that means God is extremely patient. Because look at everything he lets happen. He's extremely patient. If God is real and we're living in the world that we live in now, how is God not patient? How is God not giving you time? How is God not giving you grace? Jesus is the Lord of the Sabbath. At that time, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. His disciples were hungry and began to pick some heads of grain and eat them. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to him, "Look, your disciples are doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath." He answered, "Haven't you read what David did when he and his companions were hungry? He entered the house of God, and he and his companions ate the consecrated bread, which was not lawful for them to do, but only for the priest. Or haven't you read in the law that the priests on the Sabbath duty in the temple desecrated the Sabbath and yet are innocent? I tell you that something greater than the temple is here. If you had known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent. For the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." Going on from that place, he went into their synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Looking for a reason to bring charges against Jesus, they asked him, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath?" This is a question they're asking him because the Sabbath is supposed to be a day of rest. It's supposed to be a day where you don't do anything. But here comes Jesus doing things on the Sabbath. He said to them, "If any of you has a sheep and it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will you not take hold of it and lift it out? How much more valuable is a person than a sheep? Therefore, it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. It is lawful to do good on the Sabbath." Then he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." So he stretched it out, and it was completely restored, just as sound as the other. But the Pharisees went out and plotted how they might kill Jesus. So in the context of the story, we have a history of Pharisees and Sadducees, teachers of the law, putting the yoke of the law into people. You know what I'm saying? Making themselves kind of the higher power of the society. And then here comes Jesus just walking in the spirit. This is a different kind of walk. What he's doing is going to look different than what you're doing. These are just two different entities. Somebody who is a follower of the law and then somebody who is a follower of God. In a way, they hold the same values. Those people should want to do the same things. The law is good. You should want to follow the law. But that isn't the purpose of you following God. Following the law and God's heart being your heart is a almost like an after effect of you wanting to follow God. Those things are going to come to you. Aware of this, Jesus is aware that they planning how they might kill him. Aware of this, Jesus withdrew from that place. A large crowd followed him, and he healed all who were ill. He warned them not to tell others about him. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. "Here is my servant who I have chosen, the one I love, in whom I delight. I will put my spirit on him, and he will proclaim justice to the nations. He will not quarrel or cry out. No one will hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not snuff out, till he has brought justice through to victory. In his name, the nations will put their hope." Jesus Christ. Then they brought him to a demon-possessed man who was blind and mute, and Jesus healed him, so that he could both talk and see. All the people were astonished and said, "Could this be the son of David?" But when the Pharisees heard this, they said, "It is only by Beelzebul, the prince of demons, that this fellow drives out demons." Jesus knew their thoughts and said to them, "Every kingdom divided against itself will be ruined, And every city or household divided against itself will not stand. If Satan drives out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then can his kingdom stand? And if I drive out demons by Beelzebul, by whom do your people drive them out? So then, they will be your judges. But if it is by the Spirit of God that I drive out demons, then the kingdom of God has come upon you. What? Or again, how can anyone enter a strong man's house and carry off his possessions unless he first ties up the strong man? Then he can plunder the house. Whoever is not with me is against me, and whoever does not gather with me scatters. And so I tell you, every kind of sin and slander can be forgiven, but blasphemy against the Spirit will not be forgiven. Anyone who speaks a word against the Son of Man will be forgiven, but anyone who speaks against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven, either in this age or in the age to come. Make a tree good, and its fruit will be good, or make a tree bad, and its fruit will be bad. For a tree is recognized by its fruit. You brood of vipers, how can you who are evil say anything good? For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. You talking about killing me. How can you be good? How can you be good? You talking about killing me. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in him. But I tell you that everyone will have to give an account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. For by your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned. Listen to this, y'all. I tell you that everyone will have to give an account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. That's the person who's wicked. That's the person who walks with Christ. God gonna put every word I ever spoken in front of me? I'm gonna be begging for forgiveness. I'm gonna be like, God, I know you gave it to me, but I see it now. Imagine if you can see, like, imagine that kind of vision in your life for you to be able. What would you be able to think about yourself if you can see all the bad you've done? If you can see it right in front of you, if you can line it up right here and look at it, it would humble you. There's in everybody's life, there's probably all kind of moments that you are ashamed of. The sign of Jonah. Then some of the Pharisees and teachers of the law said to him, "Teacher, we want to see a sign from you." For what? A wicked and adulterous generation asked for a sign. But none will be given except for the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a huge fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The men of Nineveh will stand up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it. For they repented at the preaching of John, and now something greater than They repented at the preaching of Jonah, and now something greater than Jonah is here. The queen of the south will rise at the judgment with this generation and condemn it. For she came from the ends of the earth to listen to Solomon's wisdom, and now something greater than Solomon is here. Something greater than Jonah is here. Something greater than Solomon is here. It's here. Listen to what it just said. I never understood what it's about to say. When an impure spirit comes out of a person, it goes through arid places seeking rest and does not find it. Then it says, I will return to the house I left. When it arrives, it finds the house unoccupied, swept clean, and put in order. Then it goes and takes with it 7 other spirits more wicked than itself, and they go and live there. And the final condition of that person is worse than the first. That is how it will be with this wicked generation. Y'all tell me what y'all think that means. While Jesus was still talking to the crowd, his mother and brothers stood outside wanting to speak to him. Someone told him, "Your mother and brothers are standing outside wanting to speak to you." He replied to him, "Who is my mother and who are my brothers?" Pointing to his disciples, he said, "Here are my mother and brothers. For whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother." The parable of the sower. These parables are cool. The same day Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it, while all the people stood on the shore. It's crazy. The visual of that in my head just looks crazy. The crowds were so large. I feel like when we read the story, we don't read in the gravity of what's going on. Crowds are following this man. Crowds. He's healing groups of people. People are rushing by to touch his cloak. This is like mayhem going on. It's like superstar on whatever. He's like, crowds are following him. So much people are on the shore. He had to get in the boat and get on the shore because he had to get in the boat on the water because the crowd was so big. Yeah. I don't think when we read the story of Jesus, we read the magnitude of it all. Like all the things that are going on. It was a huge event. It was something huge. It wasn't something little that happened. It made a wave in history. We're talking about him now. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it while all the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places, where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among the thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop, 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. Whoever has ears, let them hear. The disciples came to him and asked, why do you speak to people in parables? He said, because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. This is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will be ever hearing but never understanding. You will be ever seeing but never perceiving. For this people's heart has become callous. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn, and I will heal them. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For truly I tell you, many prophets and righteous people long to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it. Listen then to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in their heart. This is the seed sown along the path. The seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. But since they have no root, they last only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. The seed falling among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. But the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop, yielding 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. And I want to talk about this more as well because I think it's crazy, right? And I think God uses all these people in the Bible, like the physically blind and the physically deaf and the physically mute, because those are all things you can be in the spirit as well. You can be spiritually blind. You can be spiritually deaf. You can be spiritually mute. And this, for me, this is coming from somebody who believes in God, who believes in the Bible. But from the perspective of somebody who doesn't believe in God or the Bible, you cannot accept this idea that you can possibly be blind. You can be spiritually blind. You will be ever hearing but never understanding. You will be ever seeing but never perceiving. For this people's heart has become callous. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and turn, and I will heal them. The parable of the weeds. Jesus told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field, but while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. When the wheat sprouted and formed heads, then the weeds also appeared. The owner's servants came to him and said, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from?" "An enemy did this," he said. The servant asked him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" "No," he answered, "because while you are pulling the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. After that time, I will tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned. Then gather the wheat and bring it into my barn." The parable of the mustard seed and the yeast. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches. That's how the kingdom of heaven is like. He told them still another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into about 60 pounds of flour until it worked all through the dough. Jesus spoke all these things to the crowd in parables. He did not say anything to them without using a parable. So was fulfilled what was spoken through the prophet. I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things hidden since the creation of the world. The parable of the weeds explained. Then he left the crowd and went into the house. His disciples came to him and said, "Explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field." He answered, "The one who sowed the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the word, and the good seed stands for the people of the kingdom. The weeds are the people of the evil one, and the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are the angels. As the weeds are pulled up and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will weed out of his kingdom everything that causes sin and all who do evil. They will throw them into the blazing furnace where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Whoever has ears, let them hear." The parable of the hidden treasure and the pearl. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. If you found the kingdom of heaven, you would sell everything you had for it. Once again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was let down into the lake and caught all kinds of fish. When it was full, the fishermen pulled it up on the shore. Then they sat down and collected the good fish in the baskets, but threw the bad ones away. This is how it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come and separate the wicked from the righteous and throw them into the blazing furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. "Have you understood all these things?" Jesus asked. "Yes," they replied. He said to them, "Therefore every teacher of the law who has become a disciple in the kingdom of heaven is like the owner of a house who brings out of his storeroom new treasures as well as old. A prophet without honor." When Jesus had finished these parables, he moved on from there. Coming to his hometown, he began teaching the people in their synagogues, and they were amazed. "Where did this man get this wisdom and these miraculous powers?" they asked. "Isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't his mother's name Mary? And aren't his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas? Aren't all his sisters with us? Where then did this man get all these things?" And they took offense at him. But Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his own town and in his own home." And he did not do many miracles there because of their lack of faith. So a prophet is never without honor except in his own town and in his own home. That's interesting. This is the Son of God. I mean, this is the Son of God. This is God in the flesh, walking, teaching, preaching. And they're like, I know you. "Where did this man get this wisdom and these miraculous powers?" they asked. "Isn't this the carpenter's son?" It's just like, aren't you? I know Joseph.
What's crazy is he's always had it, and you just never knew.
And you just never knew. Jesus always had it from the time you even knew him, but you just never knew. It says they were amazed at his preaching. It says he preached in the synagogue and they were amazed. But it said he did not do many miracles there because of their lack of faith. So I don't want to say they're hating on Jesus, but I just think they don't all the way. They all where?
It says that.
Where?
It says, "Where then did this man get all these things?" And they took offense at him. That's hating.
They took offense at him. Why? And these are the people that know him. This is his hometown. This is his hometown. Why do they act like that with him? Why do you think? Why do you think they act like that with him? If I grew up and my homie was Jesus, but I just didn't really have no understanding. I could see that he was dope. I could see that he was like something about him. He's cool. You know what I'm saying? And he grew up to be Jesus. I'd be like, bro.
So you want
Yeah. You think some of these people dealt with that? You think some of these people dealt with envy, or do you think they dealt with jealousy?
Yeah, and that's why they took offense at him.
Wow. And I think it's interesting how that's the Bible made a point to say that. The Bible made a point to say a prophet is not without honor except in his own town and in his own home. The Bible made a point to say that. So I think that's interesting. John the Baptist beheaded. At at that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard the reports about Jesus, and he said to his attendants, "This is John the Baptist. He has risen from the dead. That is why miraculous powers are at work in him." That's how great they thought John was, because they just killed him. Then it kind of backtracks and goes to how they killed him. Now Herod had arrested John and bound him and put him in prison because of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife. For John had been saying to him, "It is not lawful for you to have her." Herod wanted to kill John, but he was afraid of the people because they considered they considered John a prophet. On Herod's birthday, the daughter of Herodias danced for the guest and pleased Herod so much that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. Prompted by her mother, she said, "Give me here on a platter the head of John the Baptist." The king was distressed, but because of his oaths and his dinner guests, he ordered that her request be granted, and had John beheaded in the prison. His head was brought in on a platter and given to the girl, who carried it to her mother. John's disciples came and took his body and burned it. Then they went and told Jesus. So John is beheaded because it is not it is not lawful for you to have her. So it wasn't lawful for
Herod to have that girl.
yes.
And that girl was like, "Off, let's take his head off then, since he thinks that you shouldn't be with me."
Yeah.
Girl, you were the devil. You were evil.
Because Herodias is his brother Philip's wife.
So he's like, "You shouldn't be with her."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh yeah."
Off with the head.
Cut his head off.
Wow.
Not me.
Wow. And all he's saying is like, you shouldn't be married to your brother's wife. That's your brother's wife. But that kind of speaks to like what we live in today. There's certain things that it's not like you can't say. Or be off with your head. You know, maybe not literally, but figuratively. They will cancel you, or they will make it to where you're the bad guy because I'm telling you to do something that I believe is good. But it's okay for you to tell me something that you believe is good. I'm not stopping you from spilling your opinions. Say what you want. The truth will prevail. The king was distressed, but because of his oath and his dinner guest, he ordered that her request be granted.
Oath and dinner guest. That's what you worry about.
And he had be you about to cut somebody's head off.
Are you worried about your dinner guest?
I'll be like, baby girl, baby girl, I'll get. He'd be like, baby girl, I'll give you whatever you want. And then she come and be like, I want John the Baptist's head. Not that.
All right, are we done?
Yeah, I think we're gonna end for today right here.